Hello everyone, welcome to day 13 of Prelims Warm Up. This initiative has been brought to you by Aptiplus Academy for Civil Services. We are looking at the important topics for the upcoming UPSC Prelims 2020 in this initiative. My name is Shaikh Datta and I am the faculty for Geography and Environment at Aptiplus Academy for Civil Services. So let us start with the first topic for the day. The first question is with regards to Plant Life International. So the question asks, consider the following statements with regards to Plant Life International and select the correct option. First statement, it is a wild plant conservation charity. It's a wild plant conservation charity with having its headquarters in Geneva in Switzerland. Second statement, it identifies important plant areas. Third statement, there are three criteria to identify an important plant area. Okay? So these are the three statements given with regards to Plant Life International. So just like Plant Life International, there are many other such organizations. For example, you will have something called as Bird Life International, Conservation International, Wetlands International. So you can have a look at those organizations as well, because UPSC very frequently asks you questions from such conservation organizations which have been there in the news. So with regards to Plant Life International, first statement, it is a wild plant conservation charity. That is correct, but the headquarters is not in Geneva, Switzerland, it is in the United Kingdom. So the second part of the first statement is incorrect, so that's why the first statement is incorrect. The second statement is correct, it identifies important plant areas, and the third statement is also correct. There are three criteria for a particular area to be called as an important plant area. So statement number 2 and 3, that is option B, that is correct. And if we look at the headquarters of this Plant Life International is located in United Kingdom, like we had discussed, and the three criteria which will identify an important plant area are: number 1, presence of threatened plant species, that is necessary. So the site should hold significant population of one or more species that are of global or regional conservation concern. So there is an issue over the threat faced by such a plant species, either locally or globally it is possible. So first is the presence of threatened plant species. Second statement or second criteria, that there should be presence of botanical richness. So the site should have exceptionally rich flora in a regional context in relation to its biogeographic zone. More or less, just to keep it simple, remember it should be very rich in terms of its botanical diversity. Okay. Third thing, presence of threatened habitat. So not only should it be rich, but also it should be threatened. So the site is an outstanding example of a habitat or vegetation type of global or regional plant conservation and botanical importance. Okay, so basically you have to keep it simple and remember, okay, number 1, it is mainly to conserve wild plant varieties. It's an NGO which is having its headquarters in the United Kingdom. It identifies important plant area, and to identify important plant area, so important plant area is a tag given to an area. Okay, so that area will have to satisfy three criteria. Number 1, presence of threatened plant species. Number 2, presence of botanical richness. And number 3, presence of threatened habitats. These are the three criteria which are necessary to be fulfilled in order for an area to be called as a important plant area. And if you want to know more about it, I have pasted the link for the website of Plant Life International. You can visit the website and get to know the rest of the details regarding this particular organization. Okay, so this is with regards to Plant Life International. Moving on to the next question of the day. Consider the following statements with regards to Annual Survey of India's City Services, or ASICS. Annual Survey of India's City Services, or ASICS. First statement, it is conducted by Niti Aayog. Second statement, Kolkata is one among the top 3 best performing cities as per ASICS 2017 survey. And the third statement, it covers 23 major cities across 20 states, and this entire survey is based on 89 different indicators. So let us understand, let us see this particular survey. It's a very important survey, but the first statement is actually incorrect. It is not conducted by Niti Aayog, rather it is conducted by an NGO which is based out of Bengaluru. So first statement is incorrect. Second statement, Kolkata is one among the top 3 performing cities as per ASICS 2017 survey. Well, surprisingly, yes. Pune has come out at the top, Kolkata has come out at number 2. So yes, it is one among the top 3 best performing cities as per the ASICS 2017 survey. And the third statement is also correct. It covers 23 major cities across 20 states based on 89 different indicators. So the first statement is incorrect, second and third are correct. So C, 2 and 3. So basically the NGO which conducts this particular survey, their name is Janagraha Center for Citizenship and Democracy. So Janagraha Center for Citizenship and Democracy, remember the name. They are based out of Bengaluru, and it is this particular organization which conducts the ASICS 2017 survey. They have conducted this particular survey. If you see the result, the 3 best performing cities are Pune, Kolkata and Trivandrum. On the other hand, the 3 worst performing cities which are there, so at the very top comes to Bengaluru, then comes Chandigarh, and then comes Dehradun. So just have some idea, Bengaluru, Chandigarh, Dehradun among the 3 worst performing cities, and among the best performing you have Pune, Kolkata and Trivandrum. And if you want to know more about them, I have pasted the link for the NGO, plus along with that, this is the news article from where I have taken this particular topic. So you can go to this news article, and you can also visit the website of the NGO to know more about the NGO as well as this particular survey. Okay, now moving on to our third question of the day. Third question is with regards to a scheme, very important scheme called as Transformation of Aspirational District Program. Okay, Transformation of Aspirational District Program, and there are 4 statements. First statement, at the central level it is anchored by Niti Aayog. Okay, at the central level it is Niti Aayog who is anchoring the entire program. Second statement is aimed to expeditiously improve the socio-economic status of more than 100 districts across 28 states. Okay, so mainly those districts which are lacking in socio-economic opportunities. So this particular program is meant to expeditiously, means in a very fast manner, in a very rapid manner, improve the socio-economic status of these districts which number more than 100 across 28 states. Third statement, out of the 5 thematic areas, matlab those areas which are being focused upon in this particular scheme, so out of those 5 thematic areas, the highest weightage has been given to 2 things. One is health and nutrition, and the other is education. And the fourth statement, there are 3 core principles of the program. They are convergence, collaboration and competition. These are the 3 core principles of the program: convergence, collaboration and competition. So let us analyze each of the statements one by one. First statement, at the central level it is anchored by Niti Aayog. So that is actually correct. It is being done by Niti Aayog in collaboration with the various state governments. So yes, from the union side you have Niti Aayog who is anchoring the entire program. Second statement is aimed to expeditiously improve the socio-economic status of more than 100 districts across 28 states. That is also correct. So we get to see almost 115 districts have been targeted across 28 states, and that is correct. So the third statement, now whether it is 115 or it is more than that, that is not so important, because that data might change from time to time. What is more important is that you remember that more than 100 across 28 states have been targeted. Third statement, out of 5 thematic areas, highest weightage has been given to health and nutrition and education. Yes, that is correct. Almost 30% weightage has been given to both of these. Fourth statement, the 3 core principles of the program are convergence, collaboration and competition. In fact, that is also correct. So all the four statements are correct. Answer should be A, all of the above. So answer is A, all of the above. And the core principles, if we see, they are convergence. Convergence of what? Convergence of central and the state schemes. Second, collaboration. Collaboration between whom? Among citizens and functionaries of central and state governments, including even the district teams. Third statement is competition. Competition amongst the districts. Okay? So mainly who can achieve socio-economic, or who can improve the socio-economic status in the shortest time. Such kind of competition should be there amongst the districts, so that they feel motivated to improve their own status. So all the four statements are correct. And if you want to know more about this particular scheme, again, it's a very important scheme, so ideally you should study a little bit more. So you can visit this particular link. I have pasted the link for Vikaspedia. So Vikaspedia is a very important website from where you can get to know about the various schemes of the government. So just go to this particular link and read up a little bit more regarding this particular scheme. Now regarding question number 4, question number 4 is with regards to red sanders, and this was also in the news. So let us see. First statement is, it is an endangered tree species which is found in the Himalayas. So the first statement is saying that the red sanders, what is it? It's an endangered tree species which is found in the Himalayas. Second statement is saying it's a tropical dry deciduous species. And third statement, it can be exported legally if it has been obtained from cultivated areas. So red sanders will always be in the news. Almost every year it is in the news. So let us see why this red. First of all, let me tell you why the red sander is important. First of all, red sander, it is nothing but red sandalwood. So all of you would be aware about sandalwood, and this particular type of sandalwood, it is having this reddish hue. Okay, it has the red color bark. If you see the wood, it is red colored. Now this particular tree, it does not have such a great demand inside India as such, but outside of India, especially in the Southeast Asian countries, it has a lot of uses, be it for medicinal use, or let's say even people in Southeast Asian countries, they prefer to make their furnitures from the wood of this tree, mainly because they believe that it has some healing properties. And similarly, they will also prefer to make their musical instruments from the wood of this tree. So basically, this particular tree and the wood of this tree is in high demand in the Southeast Asian countries. So that is why we will get to see a lot of smuggling takes place through the ports of India, mainly to these Southeast Asian countries, because within India it does not have too much of a value. So first statement is, it is an endangered tree species found in the Himalaya. That is incorrect, because first of all, there are the two things which I mentioned. One, it is an endangered species. Two, it is found in the Himalayas. So both the parts are incorrect, because it used to be an endangered species, but now it has been put under near threatened category. It is no longer an endangered species. Similarly, the first statement says that this is found in the Himalayas. That is incorrect, because this is only found in South India, that too in very selected areas, especially like in Andhra Pradesh. In Andhra Pradesh is the area where you will find natural plantation of the red sanders, but apart from that, artificially it has been grown in Karnataka, Tamil Nadu as well. So not in the Himalayas, but in South India. Second statement is it's a tropical dry deciduous species. That is correct, because it prefers laterite soil. It will prefer a dry kind of a climate, okay? Not too much of rainfall. So it is a very hardy species, and it is a type of a tropical dry deciduous species. It can grow even in rocky areas. Third statement, it can be exported legally if it has been obtained from cultivated land. Now this is where the entire update was, because we get to see that of late, recently, it has been approved that there are many farmers in India who cultivate red sanders in their fields, but they were not being able to sell the wood for a very long period of time. Finally, the government has approved trade in red sanders or export of red sanders can take place, provided the wood has been obtained from a plantation, from a cultivated land, not from the wild, basically from cultivated land, If the wood has been obtained, then it can be exported out. So that is the update that we had. So first statement is incorrect, second and third statements are correct, so C should be the right answer. And I have given you some of the links, but before that, IUCN has reclassified red sanders, and the scientific name for red sanders is Pterocarpus santalinus. Okay, Pterocarpus santalinus, that is the name of, or the scientific name of red sanders, and it has been brought to near threatened from earlier endangered. So pehle it used to be endangered, but now it is a near threatened species. They will grow naturally where? In the forest of Palakonda Hills, Sheshachalam Hills. And where are these hills? They are present in Andhra Pradesh. Mainly, actually, you will find this place where you will find like Sheshachalam Hills and all. This will be at the junction between Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh area. So yes, they are mainly found in Andhra Pradesh, but they will also be found grown artificially in Tamil Nadu as well as in Karnataka. And if you want to read more on this, then you can visit Down to Earth magazine's links, which I have pasted over here. One which talks about the permission for export which has been granted, and but provided if the tree has been grown only in cultivated land. And the second link that I have provided is basically to tell you or to make you understand red sanders is no longer endangered. Earlier it used to be put under the endangered category, but now it is in the near threatened category. So you can visit this link and read up on red sanders, again a very important species which appears in news almost every year. Okay, last statement for the last question for the day. It is with regards to Project Sparrow CBIC. Project Sparrow CBIC. So let us see. First statement. This particular project is for online writing of annual performance appraisal reports of Group B and Group C officers of the Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs, that is CBIC. So first statement is saying that this Sparrow CBIC project, it is meant to write the annual performance appraisal report. So if you are working in a corporate organization, you would be aware about this. Every year you will have some appraisal being done on the basis of the performance that you have put in throughout the year. So this particular project is for online writing of the annual performance appraisal reports of Group B and Group C officers of the Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs. This is the first statement. Second statement, it is being implemented by the Directorate General of the Human Resource Management, which is the HR arm for CBIC. Third statement is saying online writing of APARs, that is annual performance appraisal reports, in Sparrow for IRS officers had already been implemented before. So already for IRS officers the online appraisal had been implemented in Sparrow, but this is for the first time that we get to see for Group B and Group C officers it is being done. So you can understand Group B and Group C officers are very large in number, and if the entire process can be done online, in that case that will lead to a lot of efficiency and also a lot of time will get conserved. So first statement is correct, second statement is also correct, third statement is also correct. So your answer should be 5B. Answer is 5B. And if you want to read more on this particular project, Sparrow CBIC, then you can visit this particular link of PIB. So this is the link from where I have taken this particular question of PIB. Okay, so today we are done with our set of 5 topics, and again I would encourage you to go ahead and read up more in details regarding these topics. As you might be already aware, if you have been following the series, if you have been following these video lectures, that this series is meant to indicate to you the important topics. It's like giving you a hint, but again the details will have to be studied by you, and the links have already been provided, so you can just go to the links and study these topics in greater details. So hope you're studying hard. Take care of yourself. We'll meet again in our next lecture with a new set of topics. So till then, stay safe. Thank you.